Hello, I'm A, and on behalf of the entire Mom Edit, I am so happy to be here with a woman that is a bright light in my life, Natalie Nixon. Thank you for being with us. My friend Natalie happens to be the author of this fantastic book, The Creativity Leap. It is a very important book to me. This is the book that honestly and truly got me through quarantine with the smile that is intact on my face. It helped me find new ways of thinking. And Nat, we're so blessed to have you here with us. So thank you for taking the time for us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited for our conversation.
It's going to be fun. So let me just tell you, book club goes next level when your girlfriend writes the book that everyone probably needs to read. So I have the benefit of calling Natalie a friend. But Nat, the world doesn't exactly know you yet. A large chunk of it does. But let's introduce you and everything about you. Like, who are you and where do you come from and how do you spend your time and who do you spend your time with? Tell us about your family. Like, give us the introduction to Natalie. We can't possibly do it in one little segment, but we're going to give it a try. Tell us about you.
Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit more about who I am. I'm born and raised Philly girl. I live now in the community where I was raised. If you know Philly, I live in a kind of a crunchy granola community called Mount Airy. And I have a really loopy background. I have a background in cultural anthropology and fashion. I like to call myself a hybrid thinker. I was a person who was never content with having to siphon myself into an expertise, even in my 20s. I remember feeling like my friends who worked on Wall Street were really condescending about people who worked in nonprofit or the creative economy. And I also thought my friends who worked in nonprofit and the creative economy were a little naive when they referred to people who worked in corporate as working for the man, because even at a young age, I intuited that both were necessary. There was kind of this copacetic relationship between the two, and nothing in life is that black and white. And so it's really cool that now at this stage in my life and my career, all of the myriad of experiences that I've had, which when I was making those choices didn't necessarily make sense to some people around me, I continue to follow my heart and put the next foot forward and put the next foot forward. So now what I do is I'm a creativity strategist. And so I advise leaders and executive teams on how to apply creativity and foresight so that they can get to much more transformative business results. In my view, there's a solid, bold line between creativity and impact. It's not a fuzzy dotted line. I should also mention when I refer to my loopy background, so I have been a middle school English teacher. I have lived in and worked in 6 different countries, in Israel, Germany, Sri Lanka, Portugal, Brazil, I think it's 5. And my background in fashion, I started my own hat design business called Nat's Hats in my early 20s, living in New York City. And then some years later, I ended up working in global fashion sourcing. And that's what brought me to Sri Lanka and Portugal, traveled throughout Asia, making bras and panties for Victoria's Secret. Obviously. And then I got tired of being in different time zones from my family and friends and got an invitation to become a professor. So I was a professor for 16 years in first the business of fashion. And then the last 6 years, I launched the strategic design MBA program at what's now Thomas Jefferson University. And then I looked up in 2016 and realized, back to that principle of following my heart wasn't in my work the way it used to be. So I had a big uh-oh moment and realized that something that had been my side hustle, figure 8 thinking, was actually giving me more joy. And I did the hard work to figure out how could I make a leap and make that my full-time work. So I left academia in 2017. I have not looked back, and I've been happily building up my company since then.
All right, so talk to me. You just used the words, you just said you made a leap, and we've got this great book. It's called The Creativity Leap. In order for people to understand this shift in thinking and what this book is really about, there are a couple of vocabulary words that everyone needs. Can you give us like a quick 1-2 on what exactly a creativity leap is as you define it, and what exactly the words wonder and rigor mean and how they relate to that?
Mhm. Sure. So I define creativity as our ability to toggle between wonder and rigor to solve problems. And the reason why we decided to call the title of the book Creativity Leap is that I wanted to really land on a positive visual, on a visual of that requires kinesthetic energy, because to make a leap, you have to have your eyes on a prize in kind of the not so distant future. It requires you to probably have to scale some sort of barrier. That's why you can't just walk over to it or skip over to it. You've got to like gather up the energy to leap towards it. And also, you can't leap backward. You can fall backward, but you can only leap forward. So that's the reason for the mashup of those two words for the title. Just this nod to the energy that it takes, the movement of kind of learning and doing, and the forward motion of it. Wonder is about audacity, asking big blue sky questions, asking what if, why not, I wonder, there's nothing bad that follows the phrase, I wonder what would happen, I wonder if I try, and wonder is also about awe, and it's about pausing. The rigor is about discipline and time on task, and attention to detail and deep focus. And it's not sexy, and it's often very solitary. And what we've done in our society, in my opinion, is we've kind of romanticized creativity. One of the things we do is we ghettoize it in the arts. And that's not fair to artists, and it's not beneficial to our society at large. So then we get to say, oh, those are the creative types. No, they're just really excellent at making time and space to devote to both wonder and rigor. So creativity is not something that you pull randomly out of your armpit. It requires
Don't
rigor.
I know it every day?
It's not easy. And
No.
the best engineers, the best chefs, the best educators, the best bakers, plumbers, scientists devote time and space for the wonder as well as for the rigor. Both are really important.
So we have talked about this before. The two of us have spoken about this. The one issue I have with this book is that we're talking about a fresh primer on how to cultivate creativity in the workplace. I mean, girlfriend, we are living in unprecedented times, and I would like for someone to draw me a line between work and home and education and healthcare and science and politics. And like, I have no lines right now. It is all one thing in my heart, in my head, in my kitchen. I mean, we're doing the whole thing, all together. So I love the concept, and I love the theory, and I love the idea of taking this creative leap and the momentum that goes into it. And I love asking the better questions, and then I don't have a hard time with the work. I'm willing to do the work. But I'm just seeing a world right now in front of us with so much uncertainty. If you can shift your head and your heart in the right direction, there's also this positive thing where there are real life examples of this all around us right now. There are real life creative leaps happening. So take the theory of it, because the book is great at explaining, like, you break it down, you're like, here's how this works. And then you give us some exercises, and you're like, employ this exercise, and you too will be able to manage this creative leap. But give me an example. I'm a girl that likes an example. Give me an example of something that you have seen around you in real life recently that shows us a creative leap and the application of wonder and vigor.
Yeah, so in the book, I mean, the great part of the feedback I've gotten about my book so far is that it's both inspiring and practical, which is high praise for me, because
Sure.
I aim to inspire, and I aim to give people some skills and tools to really employ. So to your point, that's why each chapter ends with practical tips that you can start to do. It also includes interviews with over 50 people who are real practitioners to show how this stuff shows up. But in the recent past, example I would give is a business of which I'm a patron on a regular basis, which is Dance Fit. So if you think about a dance exercise studio, which depends on real brick and mortar, high touch interaction, the owner is Bria Moss Wilkerson. She is a young African American woman, so it's a woman owned, minority owned business, and she's incredibly responsible in terms of her business practices for her staff of dance instructors as well as for her clients. And she quickly pivoted to figuring out how to offer online classes for her clients. And it was, there were mishaps in the beginning. There were technical difficulties. There was the need, I'm sure I didn't have all the insight into this part, but to really make her staff comfortable with instructing movement through this virtual platform. Dancers really vibe off of the live interaction and the automatic feedback from an audience, from your students. And when you don't have that, it can feel artificial. And she has managed to still stay in business. She has managed to figure out ways to. She helped me celebrate my birthday last week.
I know it.
I sponsored a virtual stretch class, and I sponsored invited my friends and family to a hip hop dance class. So Dance Fit is a great, Dance Fit Exertainment is what she calls it. It's based in Philly, is a really good example of a business that had to shift their business model. So they had to figure out how to still touch people, how to connect with them in a way that was, in this time, it's so important for people to tap into their emotional and social needs, and movement and joy that you get from movement and exercising, just having fun. I mean, their motto is disguise your exercise, for good reason. You look up after 45 minutes and you're sweating and you just had a ball and you're working out. So that's one of many examples in this time that where people have had to really employ a ton of wonder and a ton of rigor in order to get to more creative solutions.
I love the example that you just brought forth because it's been super interesting. I was lucky enough, I got to stretch with Natalie on her birthday. Her birthday happened to have fallen the morning after the debates.
Yeah.
First presidential debate. And I legitimately was not certain how I was going to transition from the emotional recovery of waking up, having that had been the last experience of my day. And that stretch class, I have to tell you, it was such a gift. I don't know how I would have rolled into Wednesday without taking that time to pause and just be present.
Yes.
It was amazing. So it is a gift. And they are inspirational, these businesses that have figured out how to be able to give us something. Mm-hmm. We all just need something to live on right now.
That's right.
So I love that example. Tell me more. You did celebrate your birthday. It's not a secret at this point. We've let it out. Natalie turned 51. Woo! Watch out. Yes. One of my favorite things about you is that you unashamedly and with pride and with wonder and vigor, you practice self-care in a way that is just so freaking healthy. And like when I sit here and, people toss around, it's a very popular term right now, self-care. And I think to myself, should I buy like some brown sugar scrub or like what does, maybe fix my nail? I'm not sure. I don't know what to do with self-care right now, but you have good habits, woman. You have seriously good habits. Talk about that a little bit, because I think people, women especially right now, are exhausted. Mm-hmm. We are just worn out. And all of the things that we maybe used to do to keep ourselves whole, they don't apply anymore. The rules have changed. So talk about where this like Natalie philosophy of like how to be able to be present and be strong and not be fatigued. Tell me more about that. Tell me about the rest of the way you spent your birthday. Whatever you want. Tell me.
Whoa, well, yeah, the rest of the way I spent my birthday is very attuned to that. So the thing about what COVID has done, it's been a big interruption, and it's actually the silver lining is that it's given us an opportunity to redesign our relationship with time, to redesign our relationship with ourselves. And so instead of going outward to get your roots bleached or to get your nails did or to, whatever it is that you, for me, it was massages. Oh, I miss a good
Oh,
massage.
oh my
I,
God.
I
If I could
really,
have one thing right now, one thing, it would
yes,
be that.
Korean body scrubs and massages is part of, because I'm pretty
Mhm.
low maintenance. I don't go to hair salon. I don't get my nails done, but
Yeah.
massages and that sort of thing were really important for me. And something I've just amplified even more is nature and pausing. So, for example, right before we got onto the Zoom call, I given a keynote earlier today, and I fixed myself some lunch I'll have after this. And I just went outside and sat on our front steps, and I put the timer on for 5 minutes, and I just daydreamed. And so I'm a big advocate of taking daydream breaks, in part because that's just a part of who I am. I just am a natural daydreamer. And now with my career, I have to schedule them in, but still I schedule them in. And sometimes it's 90 seconds, sometimes it can be for 5 minutes. So you must interrupt yourself. You must design in those times. And you have to, if you are making excuses, you must ask yourself, well, if I wasn't making this excuse, what would I do? How might I want to spend that time? And so for me, in my birthday, for example, which was, my birthday is an international holiday. So I took the whole day off. I didn't schedule
Of
any
course.
work meetings. And after our stretch class, I drove out to the beach and I spent the entire afternoon on the beach in my chair with my vest on and a hat and a really good book that I've been wanting to finish. And for me, that was hashtag perfection. And it was just me, the seagulls, the surfers, and a few other people walking around collecting shells. And it was a beautiful, glorious, sunny day. And then I drove back home. It's like 75-minute drive, and had dinner with my family. So that that day at the beach is a version of what the Japanese have a term called forest bathing. And so the other cool thing about where I live in Philly, I'm in the city and I'm right across the street from a woods. So I can just take a dip into the woods anytime I want. But if you don't live across the street from a woods, you can take a walk around the block. You can still get fresh air. You can still like look up through the buildings and up at the sky. And you must insist on that for yourself, because if you don't, you're not letting the neural synapses of your brain get exercise in other parts of the mind. You're only kind of exercising that frontal lobe. And you won't actually be your most creative self if you don't if you don't walk away, if you don't know how to walk away, even if it's momentarily. It's really important to develop those kinds of habits. I'll also say one more thing I started doing in April was I designed a new morning ritual. And so for me, it's a morning ritual. It could be, for yours could be an hour long, it could be 5 minutes long, but something about rituals is that when you adhere to them, you're keeping a promise to yourself. So my ritual is, it requires that I get to sleep by 10 p.m. Some nights I do, some nights I don't, but most nights now I'm starting to get to bed earlier. I wake up at 6, and between 6 and 7, I do my ablutions, I pray, I meditate, I write in a gratitude journal, and I stretch my body for 15 minutes. And then 7 a.m., I'm starting my day. So that, for me, more than like the content of what I'm doing, it's that by like day number 9, and I don't do it on weekends, just during the weekday mornings. But by the day number 9, when I like looked in my gratitude journal, it was like this consistency. It was just this nice appreciation that I was keeping a promise to myself. And I think that's really important for women to do as well.
That I have to say, I am an early riser by nature. I take early rising pretty seriously. If I did not have that time to myself,
Right.
regardless of whether I choose to make good use of that time or not. I mean, sometimes it's stretch, sometimes it's just coffee and start to get my mind together and work. Been trying to squeeze a little exercise in there. But the important part is that it's just me. The kids
Mhm.
are not awake yet. I am here, I am alone, I am in my space, I'm with my thoughts. And it just gives me some time to gather. And you're right, it makes such a huge, meaningful difference.
It
If you
does.
just have a couple of minutes, however many of them you can gather, and yeah, for many folks that requires setting an alarm, a little earlier, but it's so worth it to be
Yeah,
able to have that time. It keeps you whole for the rest of the day. All
totally.
right, so I could keep you here with me forever. I'd
Mhm.
rather have you here in person, but I could keep
I
you here with me forever.
know.
Tell me what's next for you. What do you see on the horizon? You have the next book brewing in your mind. I mean, this one was like 5 years and a lifetime in the making, but where do you see what's coming down the road for you? What are you excited about?
So one of the things I'm really excited about is I've launched an online creativity course. It's a group coaching
Ooh.
class, and we start this Saturday. So I'm really excited. It's 8 weeks
Oh.
long. And the reason I started the group coaching class is because in the past year, I've already started to coach one-on-one individuals. And wasn't even marketing myself as a coach or as an advisor, but one of the things I've learned in this past year of doing more coaching one-on-one is that I have what I call creativity hacks that
Mhm.
I have employed in my own life that are embedded in the book. And so in some ways, this course is a companion piece of the book. The course is called Your Creativity Leap, and I
Ooh.
take the clients through 4 milestones, and it's really to help people get unstuck. It's to kind of build a proof of concept on an idea, an experience, a project, a shift that people are trying to make. And it really comes from that pivotal experience I had shifting away from 16 years as a professor, as an academic, to becoming an entrepreneur full time. And so that's really exciting to me. And I also have been talking to my publisher about my next book. It's going to be a deeper dive into one of the elements of the creativity loop, which I'll share a little later. But I'm
Okay.
really
We'll
excited
talk
about
about that later.
it. Yeah.
It was a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for taking some of your time with us. We appreciate it. And we will have all the ways to connect, all the things I'm so good at, the social media and the YouTube and the Instagrams, and we will have all of that for everyone. So they will find ways to find you other than just through this book. Thank you. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Anne
you.
Marie, and thank you, the Mom Edit. I really appreciate you sharing your platform, and this was a lot of fun. Thank you. Love
Love
you.
you.